Hi, everybody. My name is Terry Green. I'm with Leadership Medina County. I am the director for our LEAD Institute and then also Community Impact. And today we have Kyle White with us here from the Ohio State University Extension, which I'll introduce to you here in a minute. Just wanted to take a moment to go through a few of the details and talk to you about how we're going to run this today. So we've got a bit of an agenda today. We're going to do this in an hour, right, Kyle?
We're going to do it.
So we'll be asking everybody to please put their questions in the chat box. As they come into your head, please go ahead and just jot them down in the chat box. And Kyle will do her best to address all of those questions at the end of the session today. We did allow some time on our agenda, about 10 minutes, where Kyle can answer any questions that you might have. So we just want to be respectful and let her get through everything she's trying to get through, because I know she's done this particular workshop at Ohio State for some of the women in leadership there. So it is a longer workshop than she's giving us today, but I think she's just going to kind of wet your whistle a little bit, and then you can follow up with Kyle afterwards once you hear everything she's going to share with us today. So without further ado, let me introduce Kyle White to you. Again, she is with the Ohio State University Extension. She is an area leader for not only Medina County, but Summit County and Lorain counties as well. So she's quite a busy lady. And she's also a community development educator in Lorain and Medina counties for the Ohio State University Extension. She specializes in leadership development as well as community and youth development. Her career spans over 30 years, mostly in the private sector, with 16 years spent in healthcare marketing and sales. She has also been a consultant for McDonald's franchise operators, a trade marketing manager in commercial children's products, and she worked in higher education as an alumni director at North Central College in Illinois and Stanford Universities. Actually, it was a law school at Stanford University, I apologize, in Palo Alto, California. For several years, she worked with her husband in his manufacturer's representative firm, where she earned her stripes running a small business. She is drawn to the challenge of learning, research, planning, and executing. Her experience and skills include training, product launches, and managing events. At McDonald's Corporation, as a business consultant to franchise owners, Kyle gained firsthand knowledge of the business acumen, planning, and work ethic of owners, managers, and staff of those restaurants. During leadership training at Hamburger University, I love that. I've always been fascinated with that. In Oak Brook, Illinois, Kyle was awarded the Gold Hat Award for leadership by her classmates. This honor is bestowed on one class member who personifies qualities of leadership and teamwork. She is a certified Strength Finders coach, and her top 5 strengths are futuristic, strategic, developer, input, and empathy. And I'll put a little plug in there too. If you're interested in what your strengths are, you can either talk to Kyle or you can sit in our LEAD Institute and also learn your top 5 strengths through Clifton Strength Finders. Kyle is a native of Northeast Ohio, where she has lived most of her life. Her career took her to Chicago, Illinois, in San Francisco, California, before returning to Medina County in 1986. She's been active in her church and been an active community volunteer for the last 30 years. She chaired the Medina County Human Resource Council and participated on the Public Relations Committee for the Medina Chamber of Commerce. She was the United Way Day of Caring chair and a board member of the board of the United Way of Medina County. She has also been on the board of the Medina County Drug Abuse Commission and currently serves on the boards of Healing Hoofs, the Center for Food Innovation Oberlin, and the Medina County District Library Board. In 2020, she was honored with a nomination for the Excellence in Education Leadership Award for Leadership Medina County. And just recently, Kyle was honored to have been nominated for the 2021 Athena Women in Leadership Award in Medina County. So there's no surprise there. You can see how active she is in the county. So without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Kyle, and she's got some great information for you. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Terry. I almost feel like saying the end, because it seems like that went for a long time. But welcome, everybody. Hi, and I'm Kyle White. Again, I am with the Ohio State University Office of Extension. And for those of you in Medina County that do not know where our office is located, we're right off the square in downtown Medina. So, and certainly look up our website. And if you have any questions, I would be happy to answer any of those about the work that we do. Right now, I'm going to share my screen and we are going to be off. And Terry, I cannot see any of the chat right now. So if you see anything that I need to answer right away, please let me know. So our topic today is empathy, perspective, and workplace bullying. And I have done this presentation, as Terry said, for the Women's Leadership Series at Ohio State Extension. We're going to start out with a simple question here. We're going to move to the next slide. Oop. Okay. So let me go back here. Oh my gosh, Terry, how did I get there? I'm going to stop sharing a minute and I'm going to go back to the beginning. Somehow it skipped ahead. Okay. And we're back. All right. So again, welcome. In the chat box, could you share, and Terry, could you read off the answers? What is one crucial ingredient that you see for true happiness? Just take a second and think about it and throw that in the chat box. I'm going to see if I can see chat. Okay, I see gratitude. We've got love, belonging, getting along with others. I was able to pull it up, Terry, so we're in good shape here. So I guess our theme is connection and service. Our theme is starting out thinking about what makes you happy. And part of that leads us back to our discussion for today. And thank you. Keep throwing those in there, Terry. If you see any others that I should be aware of, just jump in there. But our topic for the day being empathy and perspective and workplace bullying, I think it's a good place to start talking about happiness. So ground rules today, safe space to participate. The purpose of Lunch and Learns is to build a support network and share experiences and develop your understanding of leadership. So we're going to start out, first of all, with the question of what are your 5 core personal values? So first of all, what are core values? A set of rules that you personally live by and you identify with, standards of behavior you hold yourself to. Does anybody have anything else that they would like to put in chat as far as what you see as personal core values, something that you think we should include in that definition? Open up chat, see if I get anything. Since we're pressed for time, I am going to keep going. So if anybody puts anything in there, Terry, just let me know. And we're going to start out with a word cloud. We're talking about empathy today. So give yourself a moment to think about what you think of when you think of empathy. And we are going to open a word cloud. If you haven't ever participated in word cloud, first of all, we have a link. I'm going to put it in chat right now for you.
I went ahead and put it in there, Kyle.
Oh, did you? Okay. All right. And I'm going to open up my screen and share a word cloud. And as you put in 1 or 2 words that you think define empathy, they are going to show up on this word cloud. Kind of give us a feel for what everybody's thinking. And for those words that are repeated, they will be larger than the other words. So we've got compassion and understanding. And you can see that, right, Terry?
Yep, I can see it. Yep. That's actually pretty neat.
Keep thinking, what do you think of how do you define empathy? And empathy is one of the Gallup strengths too. Got a couple people who've participated. And we can leave that link open as we further discuss this topic. So I'm going to click stop sharing because I don't want to get stuck too long in that. And then we're going to go back to our other screen. Hang on here. Okay.
Kyle, somebody also shared non-judgmental in the chat box.
Very good. Okay. Non-judgmental. So we're beginning to feel that theme. I'm going to share my screen again. Because again, empathy, perspective, and workplace bullying, believe it or not, they're not really that far disrelated, and because a lot of them are emotion focused. So we're going to talk about some of those things today. Gallup, which is, again, I told you I have empathy as one of my top 5 strengths. Gallup actually defines empathy as to lean in with compassion. And we saw compassion on our word cloud. People high in empathy sense the emotions of those around them, and they intuitively see the world through others' eyes. They can perceive other people's pain or joy. And we're going to listen to a short video from Brene Brown as she discusses the difference, some kind of a definition of empathy. So let's listen in. And Terry, make sure if they can't hear it, let me know.
So what is empathy, and why is it very different than sympathy? Empathy fuels connection. Sympathy drives disconnection. Empathy, it's very interesting. Teresa Wiseman is a nursing scholar who studied professions, very diverse professions where empathy is relevant, and came up with 4 qualities of empathy. Perspective taking, the ability to take the perspective of another person or recognize their perspective as their truth. Staying out of judgment, not easy when you enjoy it as much as most of us do. Recognizing emotion in other people and then communicating that. Empathy is feeling with people. And to me, I always think of empathy as this kind of sacred space when someone's kind of in a deep hole and they shout out from the bottom and they say, I'm stuck, it's dark, I'm overwhelmed. And then we look and we say, hey, you climb down. I know what it's like down here, and you're not alone. Sympathy is, ooh, it's bad, no, you want a sandwich? Empathy is a choice, and it's a vulnerable choice, because in order to connect with you, I have to connect with something in myself that knows that feeling. Rarely, if ever, does an empathic response begin with at least. And we do it all the time, because you know what? Someone just shared something with us that's incredibly painful, and we're trying to silver lining it. I don't think that's a verb, but I'm using it as one. We're trying to put the silver lining around it. So I had a miscarriage. Oh, at least you know you can get pregnant. I think my marriage is falling apart. At least you have a marriage. John's getting kicked out of school. At least Sarah is an A student. But one of the things we do sometimes in the face of very difficult conversations is we try to make things better. If I share something with you that's very difficult, I'd rather you say, I don't even know what to say right now. I'm just so glad you told me. Because the truth is, rarely can a response make something better. What makes something better is connection.
So what do you think of that? Any thoughts? You can throw them in the chat if you'd like. Okay. So again, Brene Brown talks to us a little bit about the attributes of empathy. One of them is perspective taking. She was saying that it really refers to walking in someone else's shoes and feeling what they're feeling. And part of the attribute is staying out of judgment, recognizing people's emotions, and communication. Rather than saying, and don't say, at least, she's basically saying, she's telling us to say, well, I'm really glad you told me that. At least then recognizing what they're going through and not trying to minimize it. About you. We're going to launch a poll here. Terry, if you want to go ahead and launch, we're asking, do you think of yourself as high in empathy? Are you able to launch it there? There you go. Okay. Do you consider yourself high in empathy? Yes, no, sometimes, not sure. And so go ahead and pick one and hit the submit button.
You've got 8 answers so far out of 10.
Oh,
So I
really?
think, yeah, so
Oh,
I
okay.
think we're good because I think that's you and I. Want me to go ahead and end it?
Okay, yeah, go ahead and end it. Let's see what we got. Okay, so looks like we have 50% sometimes, 13% no, and 38% yes. Okay, so yeah, clearly people are not confused about whether or not they're empathetic. But let's go on to the next slide then. And we got another poll question for you. Okay, as far as empathy goes, is empathy good, bad, or neutral? What do you think? Terry, let me know when you're ready to roll.
Okay, they're still coming in.
Okay.
All right, there you go. Everybody said good.
Okay. So I think that empathy is good. All right. Well, let's explore a little bit. Okay. If you're talking about what's good, obviously I must have figured you were going to say that. What is good about it? What makes empathy good? Can you put your answers in chat, or you can unmute yourselves? What is good about it? Looking at chat here. Gives others a chance to share, builds connection, the connection to others. Well, the one thing, as you're putting your ideas in there, because I know we're on a tight timeline, is the great thing about empathy is it makes you aware as a leader. You can't really sustainably lead people that you don't understand, right? People high in empathy have more extensive social networks generally. They give themselves more readily to others. So they're more vulnerable, they're more open, and they are more likely to donate time and resources to help people in need. And so they might have a greater sense of fulfillment. But here's the next question, and we're going to ask you to throw your answers in chat. Hang on. So why is empathy good? It helps people understand each other, yes. But when is it not so great? Can you put some answers in chat, what you think about that? When can it be bad? And we're going to be providing all kinds of resources here at the end and in the follow-up email. So any thoughts on that? When it becomes overwhelming to myself. Very good. Well, while you're thinking about that, I'm going to, when you feel you can't help or are overly responsible, okay. There are times when empathy can be taken advantage of, when you don't set boundaries, being taken advantage of again. Well, here's something to think about. There have been a lot of marketing campaigns that have been built on empathy. And one of the things some studies have shown is that emotionally driven marketing campaigns, like sometimes I'll see these campaigns where they've got, children that are in terrible straits or animals that are abused. There's been a study by Paul Bloom, and it basically shows that might get an immediate response. People might immediately send in money, and then it just loses steam right away. grabs attention, and then it's as easily off the table because the next thing comes along. Another thing is that empathy can actually hamper diversity. Now stick with me on this. According to studies, humans empathize more easily to people that are similar to themselves. So somebody who's had a traumatic experience that's similar to yours will resonate more with you. So for instance, an experience of one of your neighbors who has a similar lifestyle might be more impactful to you than a homeless person that you don't relate to personally. And that has been studied to actually show that we might offer people like us better assignments and positions all unknowingly because of our unconscious or implicit bias. And we all have it, and it's not a character assassination to say we do. We all have it, and most of the time it's unknown. But we are going to empathy. Here's a actual implicit bias, a link to this assessment, and I know that Colleen has used this. Terry, do you guys still use the Harvard implicit bias study?
We haven't used it. We've referenced it a number of times.
Okay. All right. Well, if we can get this link, maybe we'll try to put this link in the resources that we offer at the end in case you really just want to see it. I've had all of my staff take it. Some of them don't want to take it. So, but I've asked them all to take it. I don't want the results. I just feel like it's a really good eye opener. All right. So, another thing, and we've already talked about this, is a lot of empathy can lead to stress and distress. It's draining. It can be very draining. And an example used in studies has been emergency room doctors who day after day after day see pain, suffering, and it can actually lead to empathetic numbing or shutting down their emotional reaction to others. Also, too much empathy can lead to distress and burnout. Leaders who take on disappointments, anger, impatience, frustration of people who report to them will become exhausted. Empathy and leadership can be very exhausting. So a definition of perspective, according to the Cambridge English Dictionary, this is our second line in our title today. We have empathy. Now we're getting to perspective, is understanding another person's view. So we know that empathy is being compassionate, taking on emotions. This is slightly different because you understand another's point of view. Okay, it's a slight derivation from empathy. So empathy plus perspective basically brings you to understanding how others see the world and what they want. And it means, in some aspects you actually feel it. But in this particular definition, empathy plus perspective makes you understand how people see the world, what they want, and as a leader or a community volunteer, that's very helpful because you better understand the people that you're working with. So I have an interesting side note here. In general terms, do most of you think that women are more empathetic than men? Throw your answers in the chat. Let me know what you think. Yes or no? Simple yes or no will do. Yes, yes. We have a lot of yeses. Well, this is kind of a funny little story here. In general terms, there was a study done, it's called Catching a Yawn. And I've had people that I've done this talk to try to see if it works. It's kind of amusing to see them at meetings yawning to see if the men will respond. And generally, scientists have studied catching a yawn, and they believe it's a sign of empathy if you yawn afterwards. And they found that chimpanzees and baboons and other social primates will respond to another primate's yawn. But a new study suggests that women might be more susceptible to copycat yawning than men. So, hey, if you want to give it a shot, try it out in the meeting and let me know what you find. Send me an email. Okay, so what about when women are not more empathetic? And this is actually a syndrome. It's called the queen bee syndrome. And it was first identified by the University of Michigan in a study in 1970s. And it found that successful women in male-dominated environments at times were opposed to women. And they thought it was due to a patriarchal culture at the time that discouraged women from rising in the hierarchy. And so they wanted to maintain their own authority and did not actively promote other women, did not actively support their promotion either. So today, there's another definition, and it's called professional women, or it says professional women who bully, undermine, or sabotage other women in the workplace because they are jealous, feel threatened by the presence of other women, or are seeking to maintain their authority by denigrating others. And this is, I have the resource there if you want to see it. We'll provide it in the resources. So that has been identified as an issue. Workplace bullying is an issue. There's actually a Workplace Bullying Institute, and some of the studies and the research they found, men get bullied and women get bullied. Most of the time, men are equal opportunity bullies. They'll bully more males than women than females, whereas female bullies typically will bully females over males. So these are all studies. It's not me, it's something. That was a study by another researcher. So based on research, self-awareness lies at the core of egocentric awareness, which is the first step to social awareness. In other words, when we're talking about empathy and perspective, we're talking about bullying. It leads us to what do we do with this information? And what my hypothesis is, or my suggestion is working on our own self-awareness. And that is one of the keys to unlocking your strength in empathy and in being more aware of other people, and thus less prone to bullying, even if and at times bullying can be not purposeful, but it happens. And if you're more aware of other people, it's less likely to happen. In other words, again, your level of empathy is directly related to your level of self-awareness. So why care? What does it matter? First of all, for leaders, for business owners, for people that are volunteers, community leaders, empathy is clearly identified as a key component for leadership and success. And it goes back again to, you can't really lead people if you don't understand them. And there have been many sayings. I think one of them is people that speak to this. And one of them that is my favorite, one of my favorites, is people don't care what you know until they know that you care. And so what we're trying to get to here, or have us uncover, is empathy will help in communication. It will help in problem solving. It will help in civil discourse. So how do you build self-awareness, which leads to increases in empathy? Again, studies show that empathy increases through mindfulness. And mindfulness is actually something that you can learn. It is not something that is ingrained in you and you either have it or you don't. Brene Brown notes that empathy is a skill that we can train, again, with practice. It's like a muscle. And she encourages people to deliberately practice it often. So we have another short video here. On to. And we will be off.
You may have heard this word mindfulness. It's become something of a buzz phrase of late. I'm going to give you one simple, serviceable definition, which is this. Mindfulness is the ability to know what's happening in your head at any given moment without getting carried away by it. Imagine how useful this could be. Just as an example, you're driving down the road and somebody cuts you off in traffic. How do you normally react? I think most of us, we normally react by having a thought, which is, I'm pissed. And then what happens next? You immediately, habitually, reflexively inhabit that thought. You actually become pissed. There's no buffer between the stimulus and your reaction. With just a little bit of mindfulness, in that same situation, you might notice my chest is buzzing, my ears are turning red, I'm having a starburst of self-righteous thoughts, I'm getting angry. But you don't necessarily have to act on it and chase that person down the road, screaming at them with your kids in the back of the car thinking you've gone nuts. Now, you might be thinking, don't I need to get angry sometimes? Aren't I justified? I would say yes, but probably not as much as you think. The proposition here is not that you should be rendered by mindfulness into some lifeless, non-judgmental blob. The proposition is that you should learn how to respond wisely to things that happen to you, rather than just reacting blindly. And that, my friends, is a superpower. How do you get it? The way to get it is through meditation. I believe that meditation and mindfulness are the next big public health revolution. In the 1940s, if you told somebody you were going running, they would have said, who's chasing you? But then what happened next? The scientists swooped in, they showed that physical exercise is really good for you, and now all of us do it, and if we don't, we feel guilty about it. And that's where I think we're headed with mindfulness and meditation. It's going to join the pantheon of no-brainers like brushing your teeth, eating well, and taking the meds your doctor prescribed for you. Let me just close by saying, mindfulness is not going to solve all of your problems. It's not going to render your life a nonstop parade of unicorns and rainbows. Nonetheless, this is a superpower, and one that is accessible by you immediately.
Okay. What do you think of that? Any thoughts in the chat? What do you think of mindfulness? That's funny. I hope everybody's not yawning. All right, great. His 10% happier app is great. Yes, Dan Harris, guys, and he'll be in the list of resources. But would not have thought of it. Yep, excellent superpower to use in raising teenagers. Oh my gosh, yeah. Take a deep breath. How many of us have lost it in the car in front of our kids and had road rage? And again, mindfulness is something that we can work on. It will help us with our empathy and perspective, understanding what other people are feeling, being compassionate towards people, even if we haven't been in that situation. Oh yeah, had I known when my kids were younger, I know, just taking a deep breath, we have a lot of resources at Ohio State Extension in our family and consumer sciences area, quite a bit of mindfulness exercises, deep breathing works very, very well. Journaling is a great resource. I've been journaling since I was 18 years old, and boy, it's really an eye-opener to look back on what I was thinking when I was 18 and how I thought so many things were the end of the earth that I had forgotten about. So just keep that in mind. Mindfulness, we're going to look at some other resources, but Dan Harris is a great resource, and we're going to work on a little bit of homework. At least this will hopefully be fun research. And Jody says, I encourage my students to journal quite often. Yes, I think journaling for me, it's very therapeutic to actually, particularly if I'm having a bad day, to write down what I'm thinking and feeling. And I process information that way. So everybody processes differently. I'm very verbal. I can process by talking or by writing down my thoughts. So homework assignment. Create a personal development plan or a vision board. Your goal is to write down what you want to achieve, actually note your hopes and dreams. And this is a chance for you to actually recognize who you are and not flood on negative things that are happening at the moment. How many of us have had a moment where it's like, oh, my car is a problem, my kids are a problem, I need to weed my garden. All of a sudden, everything comes down on you at once. Anybody, does that ring true to anybody? I call that flooding. So if you're in that place, one thing to do is think back and take a look at your personal development plan. Take a look at your vision board. Take a look at your goals and what you want to achieve and your hopes and your dreams. And that is a mindfulness exercise that can turn those negative thought processes, that flooding, turn it around and make it much more productive. So you start here. What are your top 5 core values? Again, what is intrinsic in you? What is something that's important to you? What are, for some of you, you might want to include in your personal development plan, your professional priorities. You may want to write down what your personal priorities might be. And then take a look at what is holding you back. Why are you not doing some of the things that you had wanted to do? What action steps can I take to achieve my goals? So I'll share here personal bucket lists. Anybody have any of those, a personal bucket list? That is something, again, I've done a couple times in my life. Yep, Jennifer does. I don't laugh. When I was in college, my personal bucket list included, I wanted to learn how to ski. I wanted to learn how to fly an airplane. I wanted to go to Sorrento, Italy. I had a whole list. Okay, so I took skiing lessons and I discovered I hated it. I don't like going fast. I don't drive fast. That is not for me. I don't like going down hills fast, and I couldn't stop myself, so I went down too fast. So I scared myself. So that wasn't my thing, but I tried it. So it's on my bucket list. I can check it off. I gave it a shot. I wanted to learn how to fly a plane. I took beginning ground school flying lessons. I did not go up in a plane. I realized I'm terrified of heights. I don't think that would be a good move for me. That whole idea of it was very romantic to me, but it didn't work for me. So mark it off. I gave it a shot. I still want to go to Sorrento, Italy. I still have some of these dreams. I have a picture of Sorrento, Italy in my office, and that's one of my dreams. So does anybody have any dreams they want to share that maybe are on bucket list? Anything that you want to share as far as your bucket list in the chat? I'll give it a second. Carrie, do you have anything in your bucket list? Ooh, Ireland, yeah. I'm going to pull you into this. I used to want to be a contestant on The Price is Right with Bob Barker. Okay. Go to Israel, would love to go again. My husband and I have a list of places we want to travel to. So isn't that kind of fun when you start putting that in your head? I just completed one, got my master's degree. That's great. Next is go to Hawaii, see the Northern Lights. There are, and I'm going to share with you, there are a lot of personal coaches and consultants who will talk to their coachees about things like this, and talk about even starting meetings always with some type of a positive thought, like tell me something good that's happened to you this week. And that's to get your mindset going in a more productive, mindful kind of way, thinking more positively, and to get you away from any flooding that might be going on. So keep that in mind, how mindfulness, just putting different thoughts in your head, is very, very helpful in moving forward in your empathy and perspective, in your leadership journey, and basically starting to snuff out incidences of bullying. And I've seen it definitely. And I try to do something about it when I see it. Sometimes I have no power over it. But I think just having these, focusing on my core values goes a long way. So keep that in mind, write that down. Terry, are we going to be sending out the presentation? We will, right? So hopefully this can stay in front of everybody.
Yeah, we'll send the recording out to everybody afterwards. Yep.
Okay, good. So a vision board. Does anybody here have a vision board? Anybody know what I'm talking about? There are virtual vision boards, and then there are tangible vision boards. It's a collage of images that represent goals and dreams, and it can include cutout pictures from magazines, anything like that. And a lot of young folks, a lot of students that I work with have vision boards. So I'm going to show you an example of one here. Okay, so this is one of my colleagues that I've done women's leadership presentations with. This is her vision board. Her name is Emma. And Jody has a board full of postcards of places that they've traveled and that you plan to attend. Perfect. Okay. Well, Emma, obviously, she likes Amsterdam. She was in 4-H. She's into, being a strong and centered woman, and where she's going next. She just got her master's degree. So she's constantly thinking of the next thing. And this is an example of her virtual vision board. I've seen them before, as far as even cork boards or bulletin boards, people pinning things on, and they can be taken off, moved around. You can do whatever you want to, but a vision board, again, is for that mindfulness, to be focused on what thoughts are in your head, being aware of the thoughts in your head, and being purposeful that are regarding the thoughts that are in your head. We have a leadership center vision board. And they actually even talk about how to make a vision board. So you could always go there to the Ohio State University Leadership Center vision board and get some more tips and tools on how to do it. Okay. So takeaways. And I'm earlier than I thought I'd be, Terry. I thought with all the videos that we might go too long. But takeaways: use empathy, but keep it in check. Be self-aware. Be aware of the thoughts that are in your head. Be aware and understand what people are going through around you, particularly in this time, day and age. I will say that as a supervisor, I work with a lot of people, different ages, different situations going on. Some of them have elderly sick parents that they've been trying to take care of through COVID. I've had a lot of staff that are trying to teach their children at home while they were working full time. Just being aware of what other people are going through and trying to understand it. Maybe not being I'm not as locked in on the rules, trying to keep the end in mind. Are they doing the work that we need to get done? What's not getting done? How can I help? Acknowledge when you're being drained. This topic has been very front of mind for a lot of people, particularly with the occurrences during COVID. And be gentle with yourself and others. Use mindfulness to know what is happening in your head and focus on responding wisely. Again, mindfulness, knowing what's going on in your head. What are the thoughts that are in your head? Where did they come from? Why do you feel that way? If someone is saying something that's pushing your buttons, why is that pushing your button? Take control of that away from them. And name what you want. Give a personal development plan or vision board a chance. The Gallup Strength Finders, they often say with your strengths that you need to name them, claim them, and aim them. And this is the same type of thing. Name what you want. If you want to go overseas, we've seen a lot of people here with, want to see the Northern Lights, want to see Ireland. I'd love to see Sorrento, Italy. Give it a name. Give it a chance by actually putting it down in writing. reflection. What is one new thing you learned today? Hopefully you guys will walk away with one thing. Oh, Jody, I was there. You've got to put your needs first and just discover why you think what you're thinking, because you can control some of that. What is one thing you're going to do differently? Think of differently. We'll hopefully give you those resources. That mindfulness video always makes me laugh every time I see it, because I've done that with the driving before. And we're going to ask you how you reflect on this information and use it. We're going to provide you with the resources. Terry, I'll give you the resource list so we can provide it to the videos and to all of my all of the sources that I used for this presentation. So you can look them up and look deeper into them. This is just a high level review of empathy, which is basically compassion, feeling what others are feeling, perspective, understanding what people are feeling, and then workforce bullying, which can be a direct outcropping of how people have behaved in the past and how we can kind of change that through mindfulness. So I'm going to move on to the next, and let's see what questions we might have. You are so welcome, Jody. Contrasting responses of at least to actually being present. Yeah, I think that that's a really key, a really big key to all of this is taking away from saying at least, and I think we've all done it. I'm going to put a link to the survey we have an online survey tool that we like to use. We always measure the impact of all of our presentations.
I just put it in there. It's in the chat box, Kyle.
Oh, okay. Okay. Are you busy tapping away on your keys?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can. Do you encourage bystanders to call in bullying behavior? You know, that's a great question, Robin. First of all, what happens a lot with bullying, and I've done some presentations on this, particularly in the workplace, but think about it. What happens a lot is people that are being bullied actually become ostracized and separated from everybody else in the organization because nobody wants to be associated with them because they're afraid that the bully will pick on them. So it is a very isolating thing. And for me personally, and again, this is one of my core values, I cannot stand by and watch somebody be isolated like that. And generally, I reach out to them. If I am able to call somebody out or say something, I generally believe in providing criticism in private and praise in public. But there are times when you don't have that opportunity. I try to be kind in the way I say things, but I do try to call it out. And in the workplace, there have been situations where I have not been able to, I don't have the power to help somebody, so I've called in HR. And how do you deal with bullying from a supervisor who is much younger? Bullying is one of those things that it shows a lack of empathy and perspective on the other person. It can also be that queen bee syndrome. And if you have a human resources department that you can turn to, that is helpful. If not, and you can talk to that supervisor privately. And again, this is if you have a safe space. If this person is logical and reasonable, if there's some irrational problem that they are taking out on you, it may be very difficult to have a rational conversation. You can't have a rational conversation with an irrational person. I'll start with that. But I do believe in letting people know, like the way someone talked to you. I believe in talking to them directly as much as possible and saying to them and letting them know what they said and asking, did you mean that the way it sounded? This is how it made me feel. It's not you did this and you did that, because once you say you did this, it puts people on the defensive. So as much as possible, use I statements. And I just really do think it's important to point it out to people and to get help from people. And hopefully people, as they become more aware of it and they see what happens in a workplace setting, or even in clubs and that type of thing with kids at school, kids that are bullied are the ones that are really outcast because nobody wants to be on the receiving end of that bully. And cattiness is a form of bullying. That help me with that a little bit, Natalie. Is that like gossiping, or just, you look fat in that outfit, or what are you thinking when you're saying that? I mean, I think there's some people that definitely want to make other people feel less than, and that is because they have their own insecurities, and by making you feel less than it, they think that makes them more powerful. Oh, not being patient, making rude comments, behaving rudely. Okay. I think it can be. It depends on the person and the incident. Sometimes people are just having a bad day, but if it's all the time, the one thing that many say, again, and it depends on the individual situation, but many people say that once you stand up to a bully, they will back off. I had a person that was really, really impossible, that was just giving me a hard time all the time. And I had to say something to that person because it was work related. It had to do with clients, and she was training me. I took her to on my first call on this client, and what she said to the client was, if you have any questions, be sure to give me a call. And when we got in the car, I said, this is my client. You were supposed to go and observe and offer feedback. You just told them to call you. That's exactly what you're not supposed to do. And I don't think she was used to anybody saying that to her. I'm not sure it really helped in the long run. I mean, that it was the one thing I learned is that these behaviors, if it's ingrained in the organization, it has to be an organizational change. But at least I felt good about myself that I stood up for myself. And that's important, I think. But I think it is important to stand up for other people if you can. What do you think, Terry? Any thoughts? You're welcome, Natalie. If I can help in any way, give me a call. I do some coaching and I'm happy to help. But what do you think, Terry?
I agree with you. I've actually been in a number of situations myself where I've had to stand up to a bully. And quite honestly, I agree with you. And I've lived it where once you do say something, then they do tend to back down, and you actually you have the opportunity to gain their respect by doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what happened in my case. And so definitely, I mean, I know it's an uncomfortable conversation to have, but if you don't have the conversation, it just tends to get worse.
It's a very unfortunate thing when people who are bullies have a position of power when they're both.
Yeah.
It really is. And I think that the less it is accepted, the more likely it is to stop, because they want to be in a position of power. And if you're not following them, if they're not scaring you, they're less powerful, and power is important to some people. But I can't stand to see people crushed under other people. I just can't stand it. I go home and I talk about it, and it's just not good. It's not healthy for me to observe that. I can't stand watching people hurt like that. It's awful.
So you must be highly empathetic, Kyle.
I am. It's one of my top 5. Yep. Empathy is like one of my top 5. So, and everybody's different, and I understand that. We all react. Yes, it does go back to core values, Robin. What do you believe in? What's important to you? How do you want to be remembered? What's your legacy going to be? These are all things that, as you write them down, it begins to kind of clarify for you things that other people see, but you might not have seen before by yourself. But again, I mean, I was in a situation where the same person who did this to me was like calling our boss and lying about other people. And I could hear her doing that. And what I did was I called those people and said, she just said you didn't send in the report that she said she was supposed to get. And I said, so I just want you to know you should send in your report. And this one situation, the guy said to me, well, she told me I don't have to send in those reports anymore. And I said, well, that's not what she's telling our boss. So she just set you up and you need to get that report into her. And I'm guessing she probably got surprised every once in a while when she had just said that somebody hadn't sent in their report and magically it appeared. But I just felt it was important because these people were working remotely and they didn't know what she was doing behind their back. Someone says goal is becoming a good ancestor, whether biological or not. Yep, that makes sense.
Okay, well, if anybody has any other questions, feel free to put them in the chat box. But Kyle, are you comfortable? Would you want to put your contact information in the chat box, and then that way they can reach out to you as well?
I'm happy to do that, Terry.
So, and just a reminder, if you could please go to the link, if you haven't already, in the chat box and fill out that survey for Kyle. Ohio State University does a lot of these community education programs, and that is one of the requirements for them doing that. So we would very much appreciate that. And thank you very much, Kyle. This was great information, and I think just by the comments in the chat box and the engagement that you brought to us, I think there was a lot that resonated with a lot of us. Me personally, I would like to see even an extended version of this Lunch and Learn to learn more about. I think the workplace bullying is probably something that goes on that's not talked about on a regular basis. So I think there's a lot of interest out there in learning more and more about it in terms of, you gave some great examples of how it happens. And I think people probably resonated with that and would love to hear more about that. So maybe there's an opportunity down the road for us. And I think I've got my wheel spinning as well. But thank you very much. And thank you everybody for attending. This is actually the last in our series of the Nonviolence in Medina County series. And so we don't have any more of these coming up, but we are going to probably put together some sort of spring Lunch and Learn series as well. But we do have a couple of upcoming events that I'd be happy to share with you. I might even be able to share my screen here. Oops, that's you, Kyle. But let me see here. We have actually coming up this Thursday, we have the creative thinking and creative problem solving workshop on facilitating creative thinking meetings. And so that'll be this Thursday at the Grace Baptist Church in Brunswick, and registration actually closes for that today. So you would need to register for that today because we've got to get a count in for our trainer. And then the next out and about for our alumni, you are allowed to bring a guest, and is at the Medina County District Library. We are actually going to be doing a tour of their new genealogy department. It's fairly new, but that's where you can actually learn how to research your family history and do some ancestry work research. So if you're interested in any of those, that one is actually free. So you can go to our website and register for those. And again, Kyle, thank you very much. I know you said something about sending me some resources. So if you want to send those over to me when we send the recording out to everybody, then I can make sure that I include that as well so that they can dig into this a little deeper on their own. So
perfect. I will send you that list, and I'm going to make a shameless pitch for the library. Be sure to go to that Ancestry. It's fascinating, and they have a makerspace in there too. It's so fun.
Yeah, and if you recall, when I introduced Kyle, she does sit on their board. So that's her shameless pitch there. So yeah, we'll be at the library on actually November 10th. So it'll be early in the morning, and we'll have coffee for everybody. It'll be a great way to start the day before you go into work. So check it out on our website. And again, thank you everybody for attending. And Kyle, thank you very much for all this information.
Thanks everybody. Have a great day. Bye-bye.